Hi, everyone. If you could just take your seats, we're going to get started very shortly.
So we're on? All right.
I'll just start. Okay, I am tremendously excited about this panel with Rothy's as an investor and also as a customer that owns about 12 pairs of Rothy's. It just seems that Rothy's are everywhere. They're on my feet. They're on many women's feet who are at this conference. But for anybody who is unfamiliar with the brand, I'd love for Stephen to tell us a little bit more about them.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Do we have any Rothy's customers here? Just out of curiosity. Fantastic. Well, if you do not own a pair, I have some cards with me for a free pair of shoes, so come see me afterwards. Love for you to try it. I don't know how much you know about it. It's really a great story. Two guys who didn't know anything about footwear, starting an adventure in women's footwear. So we make shoes that are beautiful, that are comfortable, and are sustainable. And when Roth and I started, Roth and I have been friends for 13 years now, and we started working on this, or talking about it in late 2011. We started working on it in 2012, and I think from the beginning we knew that we were onto something. We really wanted to innovate, both on the product front and the business model side. And Nicole and I were talking a little bit about this. She said, "Did you ever think it would become like this?" And it's interesting. We knew and hoped we would have the opportunity to become a global brand, but when we turned on our website quietly in December 2015. I remember thinking about, how many shoes are we really going to sell? It's Christmas time, maybe a couple hundred, and we sold 3,000. So that was really kind of the beginning. I'm happy to go into more detail, but last year we sold 1 million pairs of shoes. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And in the company's history, which is now we're going into our 4th year, we have repurposed 25 million plastic water bottles, which are not in the landfill. And when I think about 25 million water bottles, it's just really hard for me to get a visual on what that looks like and how many landfills that is.
I personally love it when you open up the Rothy's box or go on their website, they tell you exactly how many plastic bottles they've recycled. It's just so great to see. So I first met Stephen, the CEO of Rothy's, back in 2016, together with his co-founder, Roth. And at that time, you had only just launched. Yeah. However, they had been hard at work on Rothy's for 4 years. The whole time they had been in R&D. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, Stephen.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting, an important part of the story here. A lot of people are introduced to Rothy's. They see it on their Instagram feed, or they see it going down the street. But I don't think we really do justice on the website, to the backstory. So, just briefly, prior to getting involved in women's footwear, I was an investment banker for 16 years. Most of that was spent focused on technology, mergers and acquisitions, the internet, e-commerce, digital media. And then I ran M&A at a public company for 2 years. We spent a lot of time looking at e-commerce companies and consumer companies. And I loved giving people advice on how to build their businesses, but I'd always wanted to start something on my own. And at that point, Roth and I had been friends for about 5 or 6 years, and we were in the same place at about the same time professionally. Roth has done a lot. He traded commodities for Glencore in Stanford. He was director of operations at a biotech in Berkeley, and then really found his true passion in art and design. And so when we started talking about this, he'd been running a gallery started called Hedge Gallery, which was one of the preeminent galleries in the country focused on high-end contemporary collectibles. So, we started talking and we looked at it and we thought, okay, well, we've got a friendship and, we have very complementary skill sets. Roth had run a small business. I'd been working with all these larger companies. We both had a good eye, I think, for, fashion and design. Funnily, I bought my wife most of her shoes and jewelry. I think Roth could probably say the same. But he also, is a very curious person. you know, if he doesn't know how to do it, he'll go figure it out. And that's kind of where we started. We thought, you know, shoes just generally was a great category. And I think if you wind the clock back to, you know, 2011, 2012, you know, athleisure was kind of at an all-time high. Lululemon was dominating, you know, the fashion scene, or I mean, fashion in San Francisco for sure, LA, New York. And we were really looking at the footwear opportunity there. We felt like women were doing the shoe shuffle, kind of struggling with, you know, what's the right shoe to wear with this, particularly if you're, you know, you're going to SoulCycle, drop the kids off at school, go to work, and then out to dinner. You know, what do you wear? And how do you carry one pair of shoes? So that's really kind of where we started. Like I said, we wanted to innovate. We didn't want to be the 100th manufacturer of women's flats and really have it be a marketing and branding exercise. We wanted to be a product company who then, you know, built a brand. So yeah, 4 years. If you had asked me in 2012, you know, if I thought it would take that long and that much capital, I would have said no. Roth and I funded everything ourselves for 4 years until the company was up and running and profitable. We each put about $1 million in over that period of time. You know, when we started, we wanted to be a direct-to-consumer brand made in the USA. All of our friends told us we were crazy. So we went to China and spent about 2 weeks there and quickly concluded that if we couldn't communicate, it was going to be very difficult to innovate. So we came back to the US and really started to reverse engineer what was left of the footwear supply chain here in the US. You know, most of that had gone offshore in the 90s. You know, it was an interesting time. We were in military boot manufacturing complexes in Arkansas. We were in, because they make Berry compliant, you know, boots with US sourced materials. We went to Puerto Rico. We ultimately ended up in Lewiston, Maine, where, you know, in 1938, Lewiston made more shoes than anywhere else in the world. So there was residual know-how there, and we set up a factory. You know, it's 3,000 square feet, and that's kind of where it started. We ultimately realized, you know, we could make 30 pairs of shoes in Maine, but we, you know, couldn't consistently make high-quality product. And so Roth went to China. I stayed in Maine. And, you know, fast forward today, we have a 150,000 square foot manufacturing complex in Dongguan, China, with 450 employees. We're legally incorporated there. We are completely vertically integrated, and we manufacture every component in the shoes. So
I love the fact
that's 4 years of R&D.
And I love the fact that you mentioned Lululemons there, because whenever I'm speaking to friends and trying to explain Rothy's to them, I'll say, it's like Lululemons, but for shoes.
Right.
Like, they are that comfortable and different, and I just love the way that you're challenging the status quo of what flat shoes should be like. So at Lightspeed, we often think about sustainability and the mission behind a brand and environmentally friendly. We don't think it necessarily drives the first purchase, but it really does drive loyalty. It drives people to just have more trust in the brand, and then it drives word of mouth. This is definitely something that has been first and foremost for your brand. So tell us a little bit about the sustainability behind Rothy's.
Yeah, it's first and foremost. I will say though that, you know, when you think about a woman's decision in purchasing shoes, they have to look good, right? They have to look good. And I think what's really nice about Rothy's is they're unexpectedly comfortable. You know, internally, our marketing team has coined the term "holy shit comfort." So you can market it, you can tell customers that it's comfortable, but until you try the shoe, you really don't appreciate that. And then on the sustainability front, you know, that is very important. Some of our customers buy the shoes because they're sustainable, but I think for most customers, they buy them because they look good, they're comfortable, and then they can feel really good about them. And I think that is part of the message that our consumers are carrying. As we think about sustainability, I'll just dive in on that for a moment. For those of you who aren't familiar, we knit with a fiber that's made from recycled water bottles. So it's really, you know, an interesting process of starting with a hard shell PET1 plastic and turning it into this really soft fiber. We then dye that fiber, and we use three-dimensional knitting machines where we've written computer programs that will then knit the upper three-dimensionally in one seamless piece. So if you compare that to traditional footwear manufacturing, most shoes are made from the same materials, leather or some fabric that's on a bolt. All of that has to be die cut. In that die cutting process, 30% of that material ends up on the factory floor as waste. So as we started looking at footwear, there's just so much opportunity for us. Unlike a big company that's got to turn a battleship, we were really starting from scratch. So we really could start to address some of these things. In knitting, in knitting our upper, we have 2.5% waste. That's it. We only use the fiber that's required to knit the upper, and then we're done. And then, of course, using the fiber that's made from recycled water bottles, is great. And there's plenty of supply. We get that question all the time. I just found a stat today. There are 1 million plastic water bottles sold per minute in the world. So, one of the questions I think we got early on from investors is, what if you find out that you're knitting with the equivalent of gold? And prices just kind of go through the roof. We've thought about other materials. We've got a very active, R&D effort at Rothy's, but for now, there's plenty of plastic. So when we look at all of that, in some, we're not perfect. We use a recycled foam. We have a recycled outsole. There is still hand assembly in the process, which, really does give the shoe its character on some level. So it's this nice combination of technology and hand assembly. But we are very focused on continuing to make products with the least amount of environmental impact.
So for the first couple of years, there was just the point and the flat.
Right.
And I would love for you just to tell us a little bit more about how the product pipeline has really expanded.
Yeah, so we launched with those two silhouettes, and I think, I believe the philosophy from the beginning was one of discipline and restraint. We have looked at a lot of footwear companies, a lot of apparel companies, and I think it's safe to say that a common denominator for all of them is that they've become victims of their own success on some level by just continuing to create more and more product to keep up growth, either as a private company or as a public company. And we have a mission and a belief that whatever we do extremely well. And if that means we do less, then we do less. So you will not see, tremendous product proliferation from Rothy's. We're going to choose very timeless silhouettes on the footwear side. Where the action comes in for us is really on color and pattern. Because of the programs that we've written and because of the supply chain and the way that's set up, we can keep the product extremely fresh and fun, and our customers love that. For some women, this is a considered purchase. Other women have, every shoe that we've ever manufactured, and maybe then some. They really, continually look forward to the new product drops. You should look for, some interesting silhouettes from us this spring, this fall, all very consistent with the Rothy's brand, but, continually, or starting to kind of broaden the product portfolio and give the product lineup a seasonal element.
So new silhouettes coming this summer and fall.
I'm not allowed to say anymore, but that's what I can tell you.
So the Rothy's customer is many of you in the room. The Rothy's customer is me. The Rothy's customer is on the coast, in Middle America, all around. But tell us a little bit more about who she is.
Yeah, it's interesting. We think about our customer more in terms of a psychographic than a demographic. And what I mean by that is how she lives her life and what she does. Our customer is always on the go, wants to look good and look, pulled together, but also is very practical. And that customer is, as we've discovered, anywhere. She's in Shanghai, she's in Singapore, She's in Vienna, Paris, certainly here in the U.S. But most importantly, I think she is, very passionate and loyal to the Rothy's brand. She appreciates, that we brought some fun to her closet, but also brought, a product that she can feel good about. And what we see from our customers, time and time again, and that's really, what's driving the business at the end of the day is the word of mouth element here. And it's hard to measure, we know about it anecdotally, but I challenge you to go stop a woman who's walking down the street in a pair of Rothy's. She's not going to just say, oh, they're Rothy's and keep walking. She's going to stop. She's going to take her shoes off. She's going to show them to you, tell you, how she found out about them, all of her friends and how great they are. And we're just seeing that time and time again, in person, in the store, in social media as well. So we love our customers. That is, one of the things that really excites our team and, keeps everybody coming to work every day is, the happiness that we see in our customers.
So talking about social media, I certainly stalk you across all of social media and just see the organic, extremely enthusiastic customer responses that you're getting. So tell us a little bit about Rothy's in the way that it's become a cult-like brand.
Yeah, and I always like to be careful here. We've had some articles out there that say, Rothy's, the brand that's, stalking you in your Instagram feed or in Facebook. And I think we've all had that experience on some level. But, we've been very careful to do it in a way that truly is organic, where we're meeting our customer, where we're joining in the conversation. We are spending money, but, we want to make sure it's not diluting the brand for sure. And Instagram's been a great platform for us. With the color pattern, it's a very visual product and experience. Facebook as well. And just to give you one Facebook example in terms of organic community, we have a group called Rothy's Addicts. I don't know how big the group is now. It's somewhere between 10 and 20,000 women. They have cataloged and profiled every shoe we've ever made. When it was made, how it fits, when it was dropped, when it was discontinued. They take photographs of our store waiting for new product to drop. But we have a very active dialogue with them. We take feedback from them. They help drive merchandising decisions. And that's not limited to Rothy's Addicts. That's social media generally and how we're really listening to the customer. Pinterest has actually been a very interesting platform for us as well. We started testing on Pinterest last year. Ellie Donahue, who's our head of marketing, was running marketing at Pinterest and has just been a fantastic addition to the team. I didn't fully appreciate and understand Pinterest then the way I do now, but I was having a conversation recently with Ellie, just to put this in perspective. Per month, there are 300 million shoe posts on Pinterest. There are 16 million searches for women's shoes. And one that just, kind of blew me out of the water was we are number 2 behind Nike on Pinterest for searches around women's shoes and Rothy's. So,
amazing.
It's just been a tremendous platform for us. But I think ultimately it's really a listening device for us and a good way for us to join, in some of the energy with the customer.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about fundraising.
Okay.
I'm a partner at Lightspeed Venture Partners in Silicon Valley. We first met Stephen back in 2016 and led their Series A. But I'd love it for you to tell the room a little bit more about the fundraising or lack of fundraising that you have done.
Yeah, we've taken a little bit of a different approach here. And, I think a lot of that was born out of my experience in banking. I worked with venture companies, I worked with growth companies, I worked with public companies, and really got to see from a company perspective, from a founder perspective, what worked and what didn't work. And I've really tried to bring a lot of that into Rothy's. And, that's, Roth and I were fortunate enough to be able to fund Rothy's until it was profitable. I think that that left us in the position of when we did take capital, the pitch to investors at that point was we've already de-risked everything, on some level. We have a product, we have customers who love it, we're profitable. And so that enabled us to say, the dollars that are coming in truly are going to marketing, or truly going to, hiring a PR firm, or maybe starting to spend a little bit of money on Facebook. So in the summer of 2016, we started raising capital through a convertible note. We took $2 million. We closed that round off in December of 2016, and maybe it was naive, but I thought we were done. I was like, okay, we're profitable. We have $2 million in the bank, and then we got this email through the help desk from Jeremy and Nicole at Lightspeed. Surely they had better ways to find us, but it said they wanted to come in and see us. I had met Jeremy probably in 2010 when I was running M&A at a public company, and always thought highly of Jeremy and of Lightspeed. But I think it was that conversation with Nicole and Jeremy that really started in 2016, continued into the first quarter, that demonstrated that good people. And that's really important for us at Rothy's. We've got a humble team. I think that is reflected in our brand. And Nicole and Jeremy demonstrated, that they were really, cut from the same cloth, but also super smart around the female demographic, customer acquisition, and social media. And so I'd heard all these horror stories about raising the Series A round, some of the game playing that goes on. I'm not investing until this person invests, and I just didn't want anything to do with that, quite honestly. And it really was a one-off conversation. We focused on the relationship, on the partnership, on how we were going to address governance, and we closed that deal in April of 2017. So that year, 2016 we did $3 million of revenue. 2017 we grew 1,500%, and we had EBITDA margins of around 20% for that year. We haven't shared anything, by the way, prior to this. I mean, December, I think in a Bloomberg article, we said what our revenues were. That's the other different approach that we've taken. We didn't want to talk about anything until we really had something to talk about, and now we do. So, we had 20% EBITDA margins that year. 2018, we grew over 300%. We kept our EBITDA margins in line, while adding heads, while building out the factory, while starting to open real estate. And this year, I won't tell you what the numbers are. We're going to beat 2018 healthily. I can already tell you that. We will put over $20 million of CapEx to work, while still adding cash to the balance sheet. And we just closed the Goldman deal in November. At the end of the day, when you look at all the funding, I think the real magic here and the interesting part is $5 million of primary capital has gone to build Rothy's. So when you start thinking about it from an investor standpoint, to have the kind of growth that we have had, the margins that we've been able to maintain, and to do that with $5 million of capital on the balance sheet is, really, I mean, I've looked at a lot of companies in my career, and this is not a pat on the back to me. We, are lucky to have, created the product that we've created, to have the product market fit that we have, and most importantly, to have the customers who love it. But it really is a unique experience. I mean, if you'd asked me back then, and I probably never would have done it if I had known then what I know now about, how hard footwear is and, how hard it is to do this. I think Roth and I would have been scared. So that's kind of the beautiful part of the story.
As someone who looks at about 10 companies a day, it is very, very rare what Rothy's have done. We just never see this. And thank you for sharing with us some of those financial nuggets, because this is one of the first times that Stephen has ever shared some of these numbers, so I'm excited for him to share it at Montgomery. Now, before we let you go, I want to know what's next. Maybe it's more retail, maybe it's international. Give us a sense of what's next for Rothy's.
Yeah, all of the above, for sure. You know, we believe from the beginning that we have a global brand. You know, from the beginning, we've also had people writing in from all over the world, asking how they can get Rothy's. We were lucky enough to have Meghan Markle wear our shoes. That was another lightning in a bottle moment, and we had a global and viral news cycle around that, which then precipitated even more inbound interest. So we know how to find our customer. We know what she looks like, and she is a global woman. We will open more retail this year in the U.S. We're in the process of signing leases. It's not a lot, but call it 5 or 6 locations in geographies that you would expect, that all line up with where our customer is today and where we're seeing a lot of traction. On the international front, we are selling directly in China now. We have a team in Shanghai. We have an office there. We have some really talented people, including the woman running the team there was number 3 on the ground for Nike, brought Timberland to China, brought Reebok to China, and saw the same opportunity for Rothy's. We'll also start selling on a DTC basis internationally this year. That will be a light version, and then next year, we'll start to set up distribution centers outside the U.S.
Wow.
And I guess beyond that, I truly believe and hope that we have the opportunity to have a public company here. It's not going to happen this year, but we're starting to think about what that might look like. So, a lot of exciting stuff in our future.
Yeah, everyone watch this space, right? It's only just getting started. Yep. It's exciting. Everyone, thank you so much for coming, and thank you, Stephen.
Thank you all. Thank you all.